What we're going to do here is set up the original problem we were given in such a way that we can make changes and watch the changes happen instead of having to constantly reset up the whole spreadsheet. Now that does mean at the beginning it's going to go even slower, but it should work in such a way that we can actually start changing things and just watch the changes happen, which is what I want. Anyways, at the very beginning, we know the first month is supposed to be 1, so I'll put a 1 and put that. Now the outstanding balance starts at the starting balance, but I don't want the starting balance to change as I drag. So you can see I have a cell over here, and in the starting balance cell, I'm going to put $1,000. Now, I want to go over to my outstanding balance and say, hey, I want that outstanding balance to be equal to, and I'll come over here and click on the starting balance and go like that, which is good, but you can see it says equals K2. Now, if I do that, if I try to start dragging, watch what happens to that $1,000 that I don't want to change, right? It's all blank, right? Because when I drag this 1,000 over here, it's dragging to all the empty spaces below that. I want to not have that happen. So what I'm going to do, and you can stop this by putting $signs in the right places. So I'm going to come up where it says K2 up in this command line up here. And I'm going to put a $sign before the K and a $sign before the 2. And now, for example, when I start dragging this down, the 1,000 won't change, which is what I want. All right. Now the payment was complicated, right? The payment involved a payment percentage and a minimum dollar payment. Now those are things that I don't want to change as I'm actually dragging down. So I'm going to come over here, and the payment percentage, it was originally 2%. So I'm going to put 0.02. The minimum dollar payment in our original problem was $10. So I'm going to put a 10 like this. And I'm going to put in what we were told to put in, which is equals max. And I want the payment percentage, which is over here like this. And I want that to be times the outstanding balance. So I'm going to come over here and click on the outstanding balance. And I want it to be the max of either that or the $10. And I want to make sure I don't type 10. I want to make sure it's over here like this. Now, that's great. The 20 is correct. However, if I start dragging the 20, it's going to start using the percentage below the 2% here and below the $10 here, which is bad, right? So I'm going to go back up to where I see max L2, B2, N2. And I want to make sure instead of L2, I put a $sign before the L, a $sign before the 2. Now the B2 is already taken care of. $sign before the N, a $sign before the 2, and we get the same 20, right? Which is great. Now the remaining balance should always be the outstanding balance, so the previous balance, minus the payment. And those are both already taken care of, so I'm really glad about that. The finance charge was supposed to be 1.5% of whatever the remaining balance was. Now the problem is, from sheet to sheet, I want that to change, right? So I'm going to go over here to our finance charge percentage cell and put in our 1.5%, like that. That's great. I'm going to cover it to the finance charge, and I'm going to say equals, and I want the remaining balance times that finance charge. So I'm going to come over here like this and click on this, but I'm going to have the same trouble I did before. Right? If I try doing this, when I start dragging down this, the M2, which is the finance charge percentage, will get filled with all the empty spaces below it. Yeah, I don't want that. So I'm going to go to the M2 and put a $sign before the M, a $sign before the 2, and I'll just get my 14.7, which is great. The new balance should be the great number that we've correctly modified for remaining balance plus the finance charge. Yay, like that. And that's good. Now the total amount paid is unfortunately supposed to be whatever the payment was plus the previous one. Now we don't have a previous one yet, so what I'm going to do here is just say, look, the total amount paid is just the payment. The second row is going to be just as important. We'll have to fix that there. The total amount paid off so far is supposed to be paid off so far. I think it's supposed to be the starting balance minus the new balance, like that. All right, now the problem is that I don't want that 1,000 to, again, change while I'm dragging, right? So I'm going to come up and make sure that 1,000, which is in K2, has a $sign before it, like a $sign before the K2 like this. So I have a $sign K, $sign 2, like that. And you can see my $5.30 is how much has been paid off so far, which is great. And then I go to total paid off as a percentage of total payments. So that should just be the good number here in the total amount paid off so far divided by the total amount paid, which is 26.5%. That's great. I don't know why it changed this month to this. Well, I don't mind month being the 1.00 months, but I don't know why it changed that. At any rate, what I'm going to do is the second month, I want it to be one more than the previous month. So I'm going to say one more than the previous month, like that. And you can see that at least changed. The outstanding balance should be right here, and I want it to be the previous new balance. So the outstanding balance in the second row should be equal to the new balance from the first row. And we already took care of that, so that's great. The payment should work right now. So I'm going to drag down the 20. There we go. And I get the correct new payment. The remaining balance should be the outstanding balance minus the amount we just paid. And that looks good. The finance charge should depend on those two numbers, which is great. The new balance should be exactly what it's supposed to be. It should be the remaining balance plus the finance charge. That's great. The total amount paid. Now this was a little weird because in the first row we just had the $20. Now the total amount paid, right, should be the previous amount paid. So that should be this number right here plus the payment we just made, which is right there. So we have paid $39, so I'm really, really happy about that. The total amount paid off so far, should be the $1,000, right, minus our new balance right there. Now, the new balance should change as I drag down, but I don't want that 1,000 to change as I drag down. So I'm going to make this a dollar sign, and make this a dollar sign, and that way that 1,000 won't change as I drag down. So I paid off about $10.57. That looks good. Now the total paid off is as a percentage of total payments. I think I can get that just by dragging down like that. Now if we've done this right, we should be able to take this last row and we're just going to drag it down to a year, which is going to be 13. And we can see that by the end of the 12th month, we still owe $943. Our payments are going down a little bit each month. The remaining balance is $924. We're still paying about $14 a month in finance charge. Let's see here. We've paid $233, but we've only paid off $61, and we're still paying about 26.5%. What I'm going to do is drag this down to the 60th row. So this is about 5 years. Dragging, just right there. Now, here we go. This says if I pay off for 60 months, I still owe $730. Now, I can see a problem here. Now, it's not a problem numerically. The problem is I can't tell what each column stands for. So this is what I'm going to do, and this is what we did actually before. I'm going to click on the first two rows because I kind of want those to stay. And I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to freeze, and I'm going to freeze the first two rows. Now, when I drag down, you can see that they don't change, which is what I really want, right? So if I go down to the 61st row, I can see after 60 months, I still owe $730. That's the outstanding balance. My payment was $14. My remaining balance is $716. And then you slap another $10 finance charge. My new balance is $726, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is working just like it did before, which is really what I wanted. Now, just to show you what can happen now, if I made the starting balance 500, if I did this right, you're going to see all of these columns change like that. Now, we had to work really hard in those first two rows to do this, right? But you can see now that if I only started out with $500, by the time I go 5 years in, I only owe $250. So I've already paid off half, which is great, right? But now, since we set it up the way we did, I'm going to go back to 1,000. Now, what I would like to do is go to the looking at similar scenarios to see what scenario 4 was, right? Scenario 4 was supposed to be $200 a month, right? It was $200 a month. Let's see here. So what I'm going to do is make this $200 a month. Now I am going to change it a little bit. I'd still like to pay 2% or $200 a month, whichever is bigger, right? I'm going back at the scenarios. I want finance charge of 1.1%, which is much better than the 1.5% I was getting before. So I'm going to go to the finance charge percentage, make that 0.011 like that, and we can see it's changing. You can see that the $200 is too big, but hold on a second. I want it to pay off in 60 months. Let's see here. Now, if I start with 1,000 and I pay off, oh boy, look at this, right? If I pay $200 a month at this, I'm pay off in 7 or 8 months, right? By the time I get to my 8th month, I owe a negative amount of money. All right, so that's ridiculous. I'm going to change the starting balance to 10,000, like that. All right. Well, let's make it 20,000. Now, why did I make it 20,000? Because I wanted my payment at the very beginning to be very high, and then after a while, I wanted to just kick in and just have to be down to 200. Now you can see if I start with $20,000, my payment percentage is either 2% or 200, whichever is bigger. And you can see at the very beginning, 200 is way bigger than the 2% is bigger than my 200. But you can see I'm still paying off like 46% of the payment each time, which is, I didn't say that right. 46.1% of my payment is actually paying off the debt, which is great. Now, we only went down to what, 60 months? I'm going down to 60 months, like this. And you can see I still owe $11,579. I was down to $231 for payment. Just so you can see what's going to happen here, if I now take this row and let's drag it another 12 months, so over to 73, like this. I'm down to $207 a month. Let's drag it another. I'm going over to 84 because that's actually about 7 years. One more, there we go. You can see after about 77 months, the $200 is now bigger than the 2%, and so it just kicks in and is going to be the 200 automatically, which is really what I want, which is good. I'm going to probably make a big mistake and get rid of everything after the second row. Ooh, let's not do the second row. I want this. It's the third row I want. Second row of numbers. All right. Okay, it won't go up on me. Okay, here we go. I want to make sure that, remember, the second row of numbers is the one where I did all the work. So I'm going to try to get rid of everything below the second row of numbers because I want to play with it a little bit now. Now, the thing about it is, see, I just pressed delete and everything's gone except those first 2 rows of numbers, which were where we did all the work. Now, if I go back into looking at similar scenarios, they want to know what should the beginning balance be, yikes, so that the $200 or 2%, whichever is bigger, would pay off in 60 months exactly. 60 months exactly. Okay, well, let's see here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to drag it down to 60 months. So 60 months is the 61st row. With this percentage, if I start out at $20,000 and I make a percentage payment of 2% or $200, whichever is greater, you can see that after 60 months, I still owe $11,000. And according to scenario 4, I want, as soon as I hit my 60th month, I don't owe anything. So 20,000 is just way too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the 20,000 to 10,000 and just see what happens. Now you can see I'm scrolling down, and you can see that if my starting balance is $10,000, I still owe almost $2,200 after 60 months, which isn't good. So I'm going to change the starting balance to $5,000 like this, and I'm scrolling down, and I can see that by the time I get to the 30th month or the 31st month, I guess that's I now owe negative money. So I should have borrowed more than the $5,000. Now, one thing I want you to notice is that I'm sick and tired of having to keep scrolling down to 60 every time I change this stupid number. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make another cell way over here. I don't know if it'll actually fit on my sheet. I guess what I'm going to do is make these a little bit skinnier. So I can just put one more little thing in there. Will you let me do that? No, it won't let me do that. There we go. Yes, it will. I'm just making these a little bit skinnier. I just want one more cell. No, that's too much. Just trying to make it a little bit skinnier. Little skinnier? Yes, I want this cell right here. So what I want to be able to do here is put amount after 60 months. Well, I don't want to keep scrolling, so what I'm going to do, right, I'm going to put equals like that. And I'm going to scroll down to my 60th month, which is in the 61st spot like that, right there. And I go click, right? And this says if I start with a starting balance of $5,000 and I'm making at least $200 payment every month, they're going to owe me $7,100. Well, that's ridiculous, right? So let's make this $7,500. And you can see that after 60 months, they still owe me $2,300. Well, let's make this $9,000. Oh, here we're getting closer, right? This says if I have a starting balance of $9,000, after 60 months, I'm still going to owe $492. Well, that says I can't quite start with $9,000. Let's go to $8,500. Boy, like that. This says if I go to $8,500 after 60 months, they're going to owe me $461. Well, that means I can borrow a little bit more. Let's go to $8,700. You can see I'm just guessing up and down, up and down, up and down. This says if I now go to, if I borrow $8,700, they're going to owe me a little bit. They're still going to owe me $80. Well, let's go to $8,800. If I go to $8,800 after 60 months, I still owe $100. How about $8,750? Like that. If I borrow $8,750 after 60 months of this kind of payments, I still owe $15, so I can't quite get that. How about $8,740? Ooh, after $8,740, if I borrow $8,740 after 60 months, they owe me $3, so I can borrow a little bit more. About $8,745. How's that? Let's see. If it's $8,745, I owe $5, so I want to borrow a little bit less. How about $8,742.50? Okay, if I borrow $8,742.50 after 60 months, I'm still going to owe $1, right? So I want to borrow a little bit less. How about $8,742? Oh boy, this is getting really, really close. I mean, I think that's as close as I'm actually going to try to get. But this is what you would have to do. Unless we actually try to use really, really complicated formulas, which we don't have to use. They're not going to give us a better answer this way. But you can see that if I have to start guessing at the starting balance or the payment percentage or the finance per charge, all I have to do is I just have to set up my rows really, really carefully and set up my cells really well so that I can just start guessing and checking and dragging and guessing and checking. It's not a big deal, and it's a decent amount of fun as long as we're not in a hurry. So start early and see what you can do.